An Oscar win is supposed to be the golden ticket in Hollywood, that magical moment when careers skyrocket, doors swing open, and opportunity knocks endlessly. But what happens when that gold statue becomes a curse rather than a blessing? Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's darkest secret, the winners who found themselves losers in the aftermath of their greatest triumph. Their acceptance speeches echoed with gratitude and dreams of bright futures, futures that would mysteriously evaporate, leaving behind broken careers and forgotten legacies. The spotlight can illuminate, but it can also burn. As we journey through these 15 shattered careers, you'll discover that sometimes the highest peak only guarantees the longest fall, and what caused these stunning collapses might shake your faith in the dream factory itself. Luise Rainer seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's immortals. In the mid-1930s, this European beauty with penetrating eyes and delicate features took Hollywood by storm. Her intensity and authenticity promised a revolutionary approach to screen acting, drawing comparisons to Garbo herself. When Rainer claimed the Academy Award for Best Actress for The Great Ziegfeld in 1936, critics hailed her as the future of cinema. The following year, she made history by winning a second consecutive Oscar for her heart-wrenching performance as a Chinese peasant in The Good Earth. For a fleeting, electric moment, Rainer's future seemed limitless. But within just 2 years, her name became Hollywood's most stunning cautionary tale. Despite her extraordinary talent, Rainer's independent spirit clashed with the iron control of MGM studio head Louis B. Mayer. She refused to play by the rules, challenging scripts, questioning directorial choices, and rejecting the typecasting that threatened to confine her. Hollywood's assembly line mentality couldn't accommodate an artist who worked from the inside out. In 1938, Rainer walked away, reportedly telling Mayer, "My source has dried up." The move shocked the industry. Still in her 20s with 2 Oscars on her shelf, Rainer essentially vanished from the silver screen, returning to Europe and appearing in only one more contractually obligated film. While contemporaries like Bette Davis and Katharine Hepburn became Hollywood royalty, Rainer's name faded to a trivia answer, her meteoric rise and fall largely forgotten until her death at 104, a ghost who outlived her own fame by decades. Tatum O'Neal's Oscar story begins with history. At just 10 years old, she became the youngest competitive Oscar winner ever for her performance in Paper Moon, 1973. Starring alongside her father, Ryan O'Neal, she delivered a performance of remarkable maturity and complexity, capturing the hearts of critics and audiences alike. The image of the tiny O'Neal clutching her oversized Oscar statue became an iconic Hollywood moment, a promise of incredible things to come. But the brilliant child star struggled to transition into adult roles. Despite appearing in a string of films throughout her teens, including The Bad News Bears and International Velvet, the quality and frequency of her roles diminished as she aged. Personal challenges, including a troubled relationship with her father and health struggles, further complicated her professional prospects. By her 20s, the former Oscar darling was struggling to book significant roles. Her later career consisted primarily of minor parts and reality television appearances, a shadow of the promise shown in her historic win. O'Neal's story became a sobering reminder of how early success can sometimes be the heaviest burden of all, the peak coming too soon, with nowhere to go but down. Roberto Benigni burst into American consciousness with the exuberance of a firework. His film Life is Beautiful, 1997, achieved the nearly impossible, a Holocaust film that balanced heartbreak with hope, earning Benigni the Oscar for Best Actor. His acceptance speech remains one of the Academy's most memorable moments, as the jubilant Italian literally climbed over chairs and bounded onto stage with childlike enthusiasm. For a moment, Hollywood embraced this foreign dynamo, and it seemed Benigni might join the ranks of international stars who successfully crossed over to American cinema. The fall came swiftly. Benigni's follow-up project, an adaptation of Pinocchio, 2002, in which the 50-year-old director cast himself as the wooden boy, was heavily criticized by reviewers internationally. What worked in Italian cinema translated poorly to American audiences, exposing the cultural and language barriers that would ultimately confine Benigni's talent. Despite his Oscar triumph, Benigni never regained his foothold in Hollywood, retreating to Italian cinema, where he continued working, but never again reaching the international heights of his brief American moment. His story underscores the steep challenges foreign performers face in maintaining Hollywood relevance, even with an Academy Award in hand. Mercedes Ruehl's challenging tale begins with triumph. Her electric performance as the eccentric video store owner in The Fisher King 1991, showcased her ability to blend comedy with raw emotional honesty, earning her the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. On that glittering night, Ruehl appeared to be ascending to Hollywood's upper echelon, her talent finally recognized on the biggest stage. The next day, according to Ruehl herself, she received a telegram with a concerning message, "You'll never work again." The prediction proved eerily accurate. Despite her undeniable talent and fresh Oscar win, substantial film roles mysteriously dried up. While she continued to work on stage and in television, the big screen opportunities that typically follow an Oscar victory never materialized. Ruehl found herself caught in Hollywood's difficult paradox, recognized as extraordinary, but somehow rendered invisible in the aftermath. Her story suggests something concerning behind the scenes, the industry politics and power plays that can derail even the most decorated performers. Linda Hunt made Oscar history with her transformative performance in The Year of Living Dangerously, 1982, becoming the first performer to win for playing a character of the opposite gender. As the male Chinese-Australian photographer Billy Kwan, Hunt demonstrated extraordinary range, disappearing so completely into the role that many viewers had no idea they were watching a woman. Her Oscar win for Best Supporting Actress seemed to herald a career of bold, boundary-pushing performances. Instead, Hunt found herself limited by Hollywood's imagination. Despite her proven versatility, she was offered primarily small, often similar roles that failed to challenge her considerable talents. The film industry, uncertain what to do with an actress who defied easy categorization, relegated her to the margins of cinema. Hunt eventually found greater success on television, most notably in NCIS Los Angeles. But her film career never fulfilled the promise of her Oscar moment. Her journey reveals how Hollywood, for all its talk of celebrating uniqueness, often fails to sustain careers that don't fit neatly into established categories. Murray Abraham delivered what many consider one of the greatest performances in film history as the jealous composer Salieri in Amadeus, 1984. His portrayal of artistic envy and thwarted genius earned him the Oscar for Best Actor and seemed to establish him as one of his generation's finest performers. The depth and nuance he brought to the role suggested a career filled with similarly complex characters awaiting his touch. Yet, Abraham's post-Oscar decades proved surprisingly barren of comparable opportunities. While he worked steadily in supporting roles across film and television, the meaty center-stage parts that his talent warranted rarely materialized. Abraham himself has reflected on the curious challenge that followed his Oscar, noting that the perfection of his Salieri performance may have paradoxically limited directors' ability to envision him in other substantial roles. His experience highlights the strange burden of early perfection. When you've reached the summit too impressively, sometimes the industry struggles to see you anywhere else. Monique's raw, unflinching portrayal of a troubled mother in Precious, 2009, earned universal acclaim and a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. Her acceptance speech, in which she thanked the Academy for showing that it can be about the performance and not the politics, seemed both triumphant and foreshadowing. As a comedian turned dramatic powerhouse, Monique appeared poised for a career renaissance. Instead, her phone stopped ringing. For 5 years following her Oscar win, Monique didn't appear in a single film, an almost unprecedented drought for a fresh Academy Award winner. When she eventually broke her silence, Monique claimed director Lee Daniels had told her she'd been excluded from opportunities for refusing to campaign for her Oscar without additional compensation and for not playing the game. Her subsequent career has consisted primarily of comedy specials and independent projects, the mainstream opportunities that typically follow Oscar recognition notably absent. Her story exposes the often invisible requirements of Hollywood success, the unwritten rules that, when broken, can nullify even the industry's highest honor. Jean Dujardin charmed the world with his performance in The Artist, 2011, winning Best Actor for a role that required no words, just the timeless charisma and physical expressiveness of silent film stars. His victory represented a rare moment when Hollywood embraced both a French actor and a black and white silent film, suggesting a possible career bridging European and American cinema. Reality proved harsher than the dream. Despite his evident charm and talent, Dujardin's thick French accent limited his Hollywood prospects. Unlike previous European transplants who managed the linguistic transition, Dujardin found himself caught between worlds. Too celebrated to return quietly to French cinema, but too linguistically challenged to compete for leading Hollywood roles. His subsequent career has consisted primarily of French films with occasional supporting parts in American productions. Dujardin's experience highlights the persistent barriers facing international performers in Hollywood, where even Oscar Gold can't overcome the industry's linguistic preferences. Harold Russell's story stands apart in Oscar history, a real-life World War II veteran who lost both hands in combat and had no professional acting experience before being cast in The Best Years of Our Lives, 1946. His authentic portrayal of a returning soldier adjusting to life with prosthetic hooks moved audiences deeply, earning him not only the Best Supporting Actor Oscar, but also a special honorary Academy Award for bringing hope and courage to his fellow veterans. His dual Oscars marked a singular moment when real-life experience transcended acting technique. Yet Russell never built a Hollywood career. He appeared in only 2 more films over his lifetime, returning instead to advocacy work for disabled veterans. While partly by choice, his limited opportunities also reflected Hollywood's narrow vision, an industry that could celebrate his unique story but couldn't imagine him in varied roles. Decades later, facing financial hardship, Russell made the difficult decision to auction his Best Supporting Actor Oscar to pay for his wife's medical treatment, the only Academy Award winner in history forced to sell his statue for survival. His story reveals the gap between Hollywood's momentary embraces and its sustained support for unique talents. Haing S. Ngor's journey to the Oscar podium was unlike any other. A Cambodian physician who survived the Khmer Rouge regime, Ngor had no acting experience before being cast in The Killing Fields, 1984. His devastating portrayal of photojournalist Dith Pran, which drew on his own trauma, earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the first Asian performer to win since 1947 and the only person of Asian descent to win for their debut performance. Despite this historic achievement, Ngor's subsequent Hollywood opportunities proved limited. While he appeared in several films and television shows, most roles were minor and often relied on the same Southeast Asian refugee typecasting. Hollywood seemed incapable of seeing beyond his background, failing to create opportunities that would showcase his proven emotional range. Tragically, Ngor's life was cut short in 1996. His potential never fully realized on screen. His brief career illustrates how Hollywood's celebration of diversity often stops at recognition without extending to sustained opportunity. Timothy Hutton made history as the youngest male performer to win an acting Oscar, taking home Best Supporting Actor at age 20 for his devastating portrayal of a troubled teenager in Ordinary People, 1980. His vulnerable, authentic performance announced the arrival of a major talent, and the industry briefly treated him as the next big thing, with leading roles quickly following his win. But Hutton's subsequent films, including Taps and Turk 182, failed to connect with audiences or critics at the same level. Though he continued working steadily across film and television, the trajectory suggested by his Oscar win, a career of leading roles in prestigious projects, never materialized. Instead, Hutton settled into character work and supporting parts, occasionally reminding audiences of his considerable talents, but never again reaching the heights of his debut. His experience highlights the double-edged sword of early recognition, the pressure to continually match initial success, and the long shadow cast by youthful achievement. Katina Paxinou's Hollywood story began with extraordinary promise. The Greek stage actress made her American film debut in For Whom the Bell Tolls, 1943, delivering a performance of such power and authenticity that she won Best Supporting Actress. As a mature woman of 43 making her first film appearance, Paxinou seemed to represent a different path to Hollywood success, one based on seasoned craft rather than youthful beauty. But after her triumphant debut, Paxinou struggled to find suitable roles in an industry with limited imagination for international actresses, particularly those who didn't fit conventional glamour standards. After appearing in just a handful of Hollywood films, she returned to Greece and her first love, classical theater. While she continued a distinguished stage career in Europe, her brief Hollywood moment became little more than a footnote. Paxinou's experience illuminates the narrow parameters within which Hollywood has historically operated, particularly for women from other cultures whose talents transcend but don't conform to American expectations. Marlee Matlin's Oscar win for Children of a Lesser God, 1986, was groundbreaking in multiple ways. At 21, she became the youngest Best Actress winner and remains the only deaf performer to win an acting Oscar. Her raw, emotional performance suggested the arrival of a major talent who would challenge industry perceptions of disability while building a significant film career. Despite this historic achievement, Hollywood struggled to create meaningful opportunities for Matlin. Major film roles proved scarce as the industry's limited imagination failed to see beyond her deafness. Instead, Matlin found her primary home on television, where she built a respectable career while only occasionally returning to feature films. Her experience reveals one of Hollywood's most persistent failures: its inability to consistently support performers with disabilities beyond token recognition, even when they've proven their exceptional talent on the industry's biggest stage. Mira Sorvino's Oscar win for her scene-stealing performance in Woody Allen's Mighty Aphrodite, 1995, seemed to announce the arrival of a major new talent. With her combination of comedic timing, intelligence, and screen presence, Sorvino appeared destined for a long career in leading roles. The industry briefly embraced her with prime parts in films like Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion and Mimic. Then, mysteriously, her career momentum stalled. Major roles became scarce, and her visibility in Hollywood diminished despite her proven talents. Years later, the truth emerged. Sorvino had reportedly been excluded from opportunities by Harvey Weinstein after she rejected his advances. Director Peter Jackson later confirmed he was discouraged from casting Sorvino in the Lord of the Rings trilogy as part of a negative campaign orchestrated by Weinstein's company. Her story exposes the concerning power structures that have historically operated behind Hollywood's glittering facade, where even Oscar recognition provides no protection against influential industry figures. Josephine Hull was already a beloved Broadway veteran when she won Best Supporting Actress for Harvey, 1950, at age 63. Her portrayal of the exasperated sister to James Stewart's Elwood P. Dowd showcased her impeccable comic timing and distinctive persona, qualities that had made her a stage favorite for decades. The Oscar represented a rare recognition of a character actress who had long excelled without mainstream fame. Yet Hull's film career proved remarkably brief. She appeared in just one more movie before returning exclusively to theater work. While partly due to her own preference for the stage, her limited screen opportunities also reflected Hollywood's age bias, particularly for women. The industry could celebrate Hull with its highest honor, but couldn't imagine her in a variety of substantial roles. Her brief cinematic career serves as a reminder of how many theatrical talents have been underutilized by Hollywood, particularly those who find recognition later in life. In Hollywood, an Oscar is supposed to be the beginning of greatness, not its conclusion. Yet, for these 15 winners, the gold statue marked not a launching pad, but a peak, one followed by a long, often difficult descent into obscurity. Their stories reveal the film industry's challenging truths: its short memory, its narrow vision, its political undercurrents, and its often arbitrary distribution of opportunity. What separates these forgotten winners from those who parlayed Oscar gold into lasting stardom? Sometimes it's studio politics or cultural barriers. Sometimes it's typecasting or age discrimination. And sometimes it's the mysterious, unspoken obstacles that can make phones stop ringing overnight. As we remember these vanished talents, we're reminded that in Hollywood, recognition and reward don't always equal longevity, and that behind every acceptance speech thanking the Academy, there might be an untold story of dreams deferred and careers sidelined. The next time you watch an emotional acceptance speech, remember these 15 cautionary tales. In the city of dreams, even the highest honor can sometimes be the beginning of the end.